Hello, happy Pride Month everyone. The first thing we need to do before we get into the video is address him. Second day of Pride Month and I'm already being victim of homophobia. I went to go get a haircut today and these are the results. This is what I asked for. And I'm just gonna let you guys decide if what I have here is what's happening here. I feel like hairdressers, if they, like, for every inch more that they take off than what you asked for, they get like a year added to their life or something. Like that, this is the only explanation for why every single hairdresser you go to takes too much off. And in the past, I've been able to be like, oh, it's me. Like I was explaining something wrong. I was not communicating correctly when I feel like I'm unhappy with my haircut for whatever reason. But I literally supplied a photograph. So I don't know how we get from here to here other than just like it's a middle part. I don't know, but I look like this picture, like this is how I feel right now. Yeah. All we can really do is laugh. I mean, I hated my hair prior to getting the haircut. It had been so long since I got a haircut. It got way too long and I like my hair. Obviously I'm complaining it's too short. So like I like my hair to have some length to it, but there's a point where it just gets too long where I start feeling like a basement dwelling chud cell. Like I was actually almost past that point. So I hated it before, I hate it now. The only difference really is I've paid $40 to hate it. So I think there may be Karening out in my future tomorrow. I don't really know to what end. Like it's not like it's too long, they can't really fix it, but maybe I can get a free haircut coupon out of it. Like maybe I can get a voucher out of it. Maybe I can just fully get a refund. I probably won't do any of that because I'm not that type of person and that just will take time out of my day that, let's face it, I'm really not gonna feel like spending. But I just need to complain and I need to be heard. So drop a, I don't know, person getting their haircut emoji in the comments if you are here in solidarity with me. But this is not the point of the video. The point of the video today is for me to share with you my Pride Month recommendations. We're going to be talking about a bunch of queer books in a variety of genres that I've actually read. I considered putting books into this video that I haven't actually read, paradoxically, but I've just like heard good things about, and ones that I own. Maybe I'll do a separate like, here are some books that I want to read during Pride Month video. But that list, I mean, what I'm about to show you here is already so many books, so this video would have just been way too long. But after I go through each category of book, I'll put like a little graphic in of books that I haven't actually read, but like I am aware of and I'm interested in and have heard good things about. So if you don't actually want to read any of the books that I've read, but you'd still like to read some sort of queer literature, there'll be more recommendations. I just can't personally vouch for them. So I guess they're not really a recommendation. It's just me giving you information. I'm just gonna start with my smallest categories of one book. I didn't really feel like these books fit in anywhere else. First is nonfiction. I have so many queer nonfiction books. Again, I'm going to put the graphic of things that I own, heard good things about, in so you can see all the different queer books that are on my shelves or that are in my camera roll because I've taken a picture of them at a bookstore and didn't actually buy them. But the first one, and I'm really not fulfilling my promise here, am I? I have not read this book. This is the only book on this list that I have not read in its entirety, but I have read some of it. Like I'm currently working on it. It is Queer Enlightenments, A Hidden History of Lovers, Lawbreakers, and Homemakers. The reason this is not read in its entirety is because it's sort of, I don't want to say it's a collection of, it's not short stories, but each part of the book focuses on a different person in the Enlightenment era who was queer. So I've read, there's no reason to read it cover to cover, like it just in a couple sittings over a couple days. Like it's separate portions, or each part of the book is about a different person. So I haven't read about all of these different people. But what I have read, I've absolutely loved. This author's voice is really fun. He has sort of a British wit to him. His language is very of the current time, but talking about people and events of the past using today's sort of queer vernacular is just kind of funny. There's this one portion where he's talking about like, I don't know, I guess the earliest of these, like what we would today call like a queer safe space, like maybe a queer bar or a bathhouse or something like this. And it says, Mollies were not exclusively found at Molly houses like Mother Clap's, however. There were public sites where they cruised for trade too, with like cruised and trade in quotation marks, because he's like, that's modern language, but he's using this modern language to kind of parallel like queer culture of antiquity to queer culture of today. So it's just like funny. And I promised myself when I started this video I was not going to talk in detail about any of these books, and here I am already starting to do it. So the first category, home to only one book, is nonfiction. Here's some queer nonfiction for you. Queer Enlightenments by Anthony Delaney. And on the screen right now are some other queer nonfiction recommendations. Not actually recommendations. I have not read those books. I'm just interested in them. Perhaps you will be too. Okay, the next category is, I guess, just, like, well, my next three categories are all YA, and I guess I'd call the first one, like, just, like, contemporary romance. These are in no particular order, by the way. It's just, like, the order I'm grabbing them off the stack. Well, I guess I'll put these three together, rather, because they're all by the same author. Tobias Madden. If you are familiar with this channel and my other videos, you know this is a Tobias Madden stan account. I am a Tobias Madden fanboy down, and I love all of these books. We have, my favorite was Take a Bow, Noah Mitchell. This is about a young gay boy who finds his online gaming crush in real life and then develops a plan to try and get with him, and it's messy and imperfect and really, really sweet. And then I have Anything But Fine. This is about a ballet dancer going to an art school on scholarship who breaks his ankle and subsequently loses his scholarship and then has to go to public school where he deals with some homophobia but also falls in love. And then we have Wrong Answers Only. This is still, I think, would classify as YA, but it's more adult than the first two. This is about a boy who has just graduated high school. He's going to go to college for something medical related, and has a panic attack, and his parents tell him he has to take a year off to decompress, and ends up going to live on a cruise ship that his uncle works on, and finds himself. All fantastic. And then I have Fake Dates and Mooncakes by Cher Lee. This is about a young Chinese man who is trying to save his family's bakery. Sure, that's a good synopsis. And then meets a guy who has the means to help him, and they fall in love. And finally, My Fair Brady by Brian D. Kennedy. This is about a guy who joins theater to try and make friends and ends up making more romantic connections. My favorite of these three are definitely Take a Bow, Noah Mitchell, Anything But Fine, and My Fair Brady. These are all about young queer kids actively trying to navigate their high school experience. I learned reading these books, had no idea that that's something I would be into. I'm really, really into like books that take place in the theater. I mean, these are my only data points. I haven't read any more. I don't know if I would like this if it was an adult book. I've never read one, but yeah, I really, really loved these. I love actively following along with the character as they try to navigate friendships, relationships, homophobia in like that high school setting. Okay, next I have some YA fantasy. I'll start with the one that I'm not really sure if I should call it fantasy or more historical. There's nothing actually fantastical that happens in it, but Gwen and Art Are Not in Love. It's set in like Arthurian England, which is like that time, like the Legend of King Arthur time is like a legend, like it's myth. There's fantasy in those tales, but not necessarily in this. So I don't really know if I want to call it fantasy. I don't really want to call it historical either, though, even though it like is set in a historical setting. Whatever, who cares? Gwen and Art are not in love. This is about is she a prince or princess or a queen? I don't know. She's royalty, and she is has an arranged marriage with, her name is Gwen. She has an arranged marriage with Art, whatever. And they do not want to get married to each other. They don't even like each other because they both have feelings for members of the same sex. Arthur has feelings for Gwen's brother, and Gwen has feelings for a knight. And so it's like a love rectangle, and they're all trying to figure out how to help each other be with each other. And it's just fun and cute. And then I have a couple of mermaid books, In Deeper Waters by F.T. Lukens and Out of the Blue by Jason June. Gay mermaids, I mean, do I really need to give any more synopsis than that? This one has some representation for people in larger bodies experiencing romance, if you are looking for that kind of representation. F.T. Lukens, this is one of two of several queer fantasy books that I've read from them. I didn't quite love the other one. That one is called So This Is Ever After. I have a bunch of their books. Those are the only two I've really read. I preferred this one to that other one. But I'm saying that, I'm gonna include it in the list. I'm saying that just to say that this author has like a bunch of different queer fantasy romances. YA queer fantasy romances. If perhaps you're not interested in mermaids, but are interested in a YA queer fantasy romance in general, you could look up their other books. But some gay mermaids for you. And finally, we have Reverie by Ryan LaSala. This, I would love to reread this. I gave it a 5 stars. I gave it a 5 star when I initially read it, but can't for the life of me remember much of it. And I think the reason is because there's so much going on, and it's kind of like grand in scope, that wasn't really able to take things in the way I'd like to, but I remember really loving it. This is about this guy who just like wakes up after a car crash, I think, and has lost his memories. And as memories start to flood back, he starts to remember that he is part of sort of this magical group of kids who are trying to stop something that has to do with like malicious dreams taking over the world. I don't think that's a very good description, but that's the description you're getting. And the reason he lost his memories is because of one of these events happening. And so he has to like relearn how to be part of this group and help save his town and presumably the world, perhaps. It was fun. And finally, how about some queer... Oh. I have 3 more books. Just kidding. I have 3 more queer fantasy books. I thought these were part of the sci-fi stack, but turns out I only have 1 YA sci-fi recommendation. How could I close out this list without talking about Aiden Thomas and Cemetery Boys? I've talked about this book so many times on the channel before. I absolutely love Aiden Thomas. I love Cemetery Boys so much. This is about a trans man who the magic system in this book is gendered. So like he's a witch, but has the female magic. So like his magic is a sense of dysphoria for him. So he just like doesn't use his magic, and then accidentally uses his magic, and it is the male magic. So the magic system is sort of like affirming his gender identity, but his family still does not. So there's like dynamics there, and there's a romance also with a ghost, no less. So that's fun. And yeah, I just love where is my other Aiden Thomas? Oh, literally right on my lap. I love what Aiden Thomas does with integrating his world building and his magic system with the concept of gender identity. To that point, We have The Sunbearer Trials and its sequel, Celestial Monsters. I didn't love Celestial Monsters. I did not love the sequel, but if you're gonna read the first book, you gotta read the second, you know? But The Sunbearer Trials is like fantastic. And this is about a trans man also who is a demigod, and there is a Hunger Games-esque competition amongst demigods every 10 years where 9 of them will live, and the loser has to be sacrificed so that their blood can continue to keep monsters at bay from where they live. And he's the demigod of, or he's the son of the goddess Quetzal, so he is like part bird, if you will. But despite what you see here in the cover, his wings are, like in birds, you know, like the female birds have sort of dull, colorless wings, and the male birds have really colorful and ostentatious wings. And so he, having been born a female, has like the dull, lifeless wings. So he like binds them like how trans men bind their chests. He also binds his wings. And so this is what I'm talking about, where like the magic system and the world building that Aiden Thomas does integrated into the concept of gender identity and being gender affirming. It's just so imaginative, and I just absolutely love his point of view as a trans fantasy author. Okay, and then finally one more book, but this is a sci-fi, some queer sci-fi, The Darkness Outside Us by Elliot Struffer. It currently has a sequel out, which I have yet to read, unfortunately. But this is 2 astronauts alone together on a mission to Saturn's moon Titan to ostensibly rescue, what are these people's names? Ambrose and Kodiak. This one's Ambrose. Ambrose's sister. They're gonna go rescue them, and everything is not what it seems, and they have to rely on each other to get through it. And it's all very cute and exciting. As it turns out, I have not actually read a YA queer horror book. So along with, but I know of many and I'm interested in them and have them on my shelves. So in addition to my YA fantasy and sci-fi recs, I will also be including in the graphic YA horror, YA queer horror that I am interested in. Okay, now we're gonna get into some adult stuff. I'll start with adult horror this time. Why did I say it like that? Horror. First off, if you're gonna talk about queer adult horror, you gotta talk about Eric LaRocca. I haven't loved every Eric LaRocca I've read, but I have loved a lot of Eric LaRocca I've read. We have The Trees Grew, what is this called? The Trees Grew Because I Bled There, which is a short story collection. And Things Have Gotten Worse Since We Last Spoke, which is the name of a popular short story from him, which you can buy as a short story on its own, or it comes in this collection. I recommend getting the collection. I think there's 2 or 3 other stories in here, which I really, really enjoyed, in addition to the titular story. So these are the Eric LaRocca. The only other one I've read is, what's it called? You've Lost a Lot of Blood. And I didn't love that one, so I'm not including that on the list of books I would recommend, because I didn't really like it. But I did really enjoy these ones. Then we have Monstrilio by Gerardo Samano Cordova. This is about a young boy who dies, and then his mother keeps a piece of his lung, and the lung turns into a creature that the parents start to raise as their child. And yeah, that's all I'm gonna say. It's written in 4 parts, one each from different perspectives. One from the mother's perspective, one from the father's perspective, one from Monstrilio's perspective, and one from a perspective that I don't remember. So that'll be a little surprise for you if you pick this one up. And finally, we have Knock Knock Open Wide by Neil Sharpson, the smashing debut by an Irish author, I think. His new book has come out recently. It's called The Burial Tide. I don't know if that one is queer, but I am very excited for it. This one is sapphic. It is about a woman who disappears and then is found and has been changed in a disturbing way. Several years later, she has had a daughter. The daughter is in college. There's another girl that I can't remember if the person we're mainly following is that woman's daughter, or if the woman's daughter is the person we're following meets. I got them a little mixed up. But two women, they meet. One of them is the child of this woman who went missing several years earlier and is like messed up in profound ways from her experiences that are linked to the experiences that the two women in the future are having, all linked somehow to like a children's TV show that is malicious in nature. And there's Irish mythology, and it's all very good, very interesting, very haunting. And very queer. Okay, so next we have some sci-fi. I have to talk about The Monk and Robot Duology by Becky Chambers. This is about a T-monk named Dex who meets a robot named Mosscap, and the robots have been living in isolation for some time. I don't remember, several decades, I think. And then Mosscap is chosen as the representative amongst the robots to come out of isolation and see how the humans have been living, see if things have changed, see if the things have changed that caused them to go into isolation. And so they develop a friendship that is very, very queer-coded. Dex is non-binary, so there's that representation. Mosscap is a robot, so like isn't gendered at all, but their relationship is very queer-coded. I mean, it's a friendship, it's platonic, but it's queer-coded. And it's very cozy. This is like cozy sci-fi down. It's very, it's Dex moving through the world and just like trying to figure out their place in it. So there isn't really a lot of high stakes besides Dex and Mosscap both in a way trying to learn about humanity. So it's very, very sweet. And then we have Walking Practice by Dolki Min. This is another one that is maybe less explicitly queer, but it's very, very queer coded in the conversations that it has about hookup culture and promiscuity and the dangers therein, and sort of this insatiable need to be with someone, where in the main characters in the case of the main character in this book, it actually is a need because the main character is an alien who has crash landed on Earth that must eat people to survive. And the way that they lure people into eating them is through like hookup culture and hookup apps and things like that. So not super explicitly queer, but very, very queer coded in theme. Next is Upright Women Wanted by Sarah Gailey. This is like a Western sci-fi where, in like sort of dystopian, it's a little bit 1984 in the sense that literature is controlled. So librarians have resulted to this sort of nomadic lifestyle of travel and sort of needing to protect the books that they have as if the books were like precious cargo. I mean, which they are in this context. And so it's like this group of women traveling and protecting their books to deliver it from place to place, and it's sapphic. And finally, we have Lucky Day by Chuck Tingle. This is about a statistician who is a lesbian, and one day, all over the world, a bunch of very, very highly unlikely events occur that result in the death of her wife. And so we find her like 4 years later in a place where her entire world as a statistician and as a wife has been completely destroyed because she has lost her wife. And the reasons why there was this like apocalypse-esque thing that caused a bunch of people to die is from like super low probability events. So like her whole world has been rocked. And then a gay guy, important, based on the theme of this video, who is from like this task force trying to figure out what this like low probability event was and how it happened, has come to her seeking help. Okay, I only have 13 minutes left in memory in this card, so I'm gonna try and be quick with the rest of this. I'm gonna move on to adult fantasy. I'm gonna start with a few books that I'm not really sure if they're adult. I don't really know how they're marketed. They're not like, I don't think they read YA in the sense that they're childish. I think everybody, but they're not like, they are appropriate for kids though. So I don't really know where to put these. I'm putting them in adult because they don't read YA, but they are appropriate for kids. TJ Klune's House in the Cerulean Sea and Somewhere Beyond the Sea, which is the sequel. This is about a guy who works for what's sort of like CPS, but for magical children. And he is going to a house to investigate the conditions of where these children are living. But it's a very, very special case because these are very, very unorthodox types of children, even in the magical sense. And it's like found family vibes, and he develops a relationship with the headmaster, I guess you could call him, of the house. Yeah, and it's just precious. We have Under the Whispering Door by TJ Klune as well. TJ Klune has so many books at this point, but I've only read these 3. This is about a guy who dies, and before he can move on, he has to go through Karen's Crossing, which is a tea shop that is staffed by some colorful characters, all who have to help people move on. And there's a relationship that forms that is queer. I also have Dark Rise and the sequel. I don't have it physically, but its sequel is Dark Air. This is about a young man who, again, this is another one where I'm not sure if this is YA or adult. It doesn't read YA, but it's not like explicit in a way that would be inappropriate for young people. But this is about a guy who, classic kind of like chosen one type of story, he finds that he is a part of this magical world that he doesn't even know existed. And yeah, I mean, I think that's good enough. The first book is not super explicitly queer, and the second book gets more explicitly queer, but I think it's gonna be, I don't think the third book has come out yet, but I think the way the second book ends becomes explicitly gay. So then the third book I think will be overtly gay, you know? But that removed, this is a very compelling and interesting just fantasy story. I read this, well, I listened to the audiobook. The audiobook is fantastic. I listened to it like back to back. Like I finished it and then I was like, I need to listen to that again because this is another one where there's so much to it. Like, look, it's thick. Like there's so much to it that I needed to listen to it again immediately to really make sure I got everything before I then read the second book, which I read immediately after. And it's a really, really great fantasy series, even without it being explicitly queer at the start, but it gets explicitly queer, so yeah. If you're looking for something explicitly queer all the way through though, that is fantasy, then how about When the Tides Held the Moon? More gay mermaids. If you like the sound of Out of the Blue and In Deeper Waters, but didn't want to read a YA, here's an adult one. I don't need to give any more synopsis than I gave for the first two. Gay mermaids. And it's adult, and it's beautiful, and it's lyrical, and it's set in the 1920s, and there's found family vibes, and it's just fantastic. And finally, my last adult fantasy is my favorite book, literally of all time, The Starless Sea, of course. You knew it was coming. If you've been on this channel for a while. This is about a guy who discovers a library that is beneath the surface of the earth and finds himself in, there are adventures that happen. This is another one that's lyrical, it's beautiful, it has great writing. In some ways it reads as a collection of short stories because there are stories interspersed throughout the main narrative that add to and give further context into the main narrative. There is a male love, the main character is male, his love interest is male, so there's like a gay romance there, but the romance is not the plot. It's not a romance book, but there is a gay romance in it. And it's just my favorite book of all time, so of course it was gonna be in this list. And finally, in the final 8 minutes, let's talk about just some contemporary romance and a historical romance. I'll start with the historical romance. In Memoriam by Alice Wynne. This is about two young men who develop a relationship in boarding school and then join the war efforts during World War I. So it's, yeah, is that historical setting. It's very tragic because they're taken out of this sort of boyhood school life where they could kind of be together. I mean, it had to be in secret because the time period, but they could kind of be together to the extent that they were able to. And then they're immediately put into the situation where they have to grow up really fast and they don't really have moments alone with each other, and they sort of have to drift apart to be involved in this war effort. And then of course all the traumas they're in within being in the war. But throughout the whole narrative, they are continuously trying to be together as best they can. And it's so sweet and so sad. If you're looking to cry during Pride Month. Okay, and then how about some just some adult romance. Casey McQuiston. I adore Casey McQuiston so much. Such great writing. I actually thought Red, White, and Royal Blue, I gave it 4. Like, I never watched the movie. I am upset with there being a sequel to the movie where there wasn't a sequel to the book. I'm happy for them, but like their new role as like screenwriter, and I don't know if they're directing the movie, but they're super involved in the movies in a way that is taking them away from their writing. And I'm like, where is your next book, sister? But I'm happy with what I have while I have it. I haven't read One Last Stop, which is Casey McQuiston's Sapphic offering, one of their 2 Sapphic offerings. There's that one in Ike Shara Wheeler. Haven't read either of those, but do we need to know? We know about Red, White, and Royal Blue, right? The first son and a prince of England, and they are in love. And then the pairing, there's some non-binary representation in here. One of the main 2 love interests, Theo, is non-binary. And then we have bisexual representation in Kit also. Kit and Theo used to be in a relationship. They broke up, but before they broke up, they bought a voucher to do like a wine tour of Italy. And then 2 years later, I think it's 2 years, they end up both choosing to cash it in separately on the same trip. So then they are brought back together and end up going on this trip years after they broke up, and they come back to each other. And this has so many lines and passages that I continue to think about to this day. It's just so beautiful and funny. It's so funny. Penultimate book here, we have The Charm Offensive by Alison Cochrane. This is a guy, it's basically The Bachelor. He is The Bachelor. He is a production assistant on The Bachelor. And they end up falling in love with each other, and there's some neurodivergent representation, some ADHD, or not ADHD, OCD representation that I really appreciated. And yeah, it's very heartwarming, cute, and I love that. And finally, my favorite book of last year is Boyfriend Material by Alexis Hall. Husband Material also is the sequel to this, so those 2 together. And just today, on the 2nd day of Pride Month, Father Material was released. So I picked up the audiobook for this. I mean, I had to buy it to support Alexis Hall. But I like to make sure I have everything underlined from things that I enjoy during the audiobook. But the audiobook narrator for this series is so fantastic. He's just so fucking good. He understands the wit. And I mentioned something about British wit with the first book, with Queer Enlightenment. Talk about British wit. Alexis Hall is so fucking funny. Luke and Oliver are my favorite fuck couple. Like, they're my favorite characters of like any book, Luke especially. He's just such a mess and so funny, and they're both so intelligent and so charming and so witty. This is my favorite queer romance. And so if you're looking for a funny, heartwarming, cute, just smiling, giggling, kicking your feet queer romance this Pride Month, Boyfriend Material is like the top of my recommendation. So there it is. There was however many books I just recommended to you to read this Pride Month, plus whatever books I was adding in graphics. after each section. So I have 3 minutes left. I'm gonna wrap it up, but I would love if you would tell me your thoughts on any of the I would love if you would tell me any of your thoughts on these books in the comments. If you've read them and loved them, if you're interested in reading them, if you're going to your local bookstore right now to go pick up one of these books off my recommendation, I want to know that. So I'm gonna wrap it up now. Happy Pride. Love you guys.